Welcome to Fearless Conversations, a podcast by free thinkers of the world. The content within this episode is intended for mature audiences only.
Where did your love for sharks? Because you said since you were 8 years old, you weren't scared of sharks. You like
It's another
how
story.
did that happen?
It happened thanks to two things. One, it happened through my parents' education about my dad always said there are no monsters in the sea, only the ones you make up in your head. I was born in 1971. Jaws came out in 1975. So by the time Jaws reached mainstream, I was a 7-8-year-old child that could have absorbed Jaws in a wrong way. But my father was like, oh, it's a fake shark and it's a fake story and monsters don't exist in the oceans, only the one you make up in your head. And at the same time, this movie came out and it was like a counter Jaws or a Jaws, but with a different spin. And it was a guy that had the power of swimming with sharks. And he used the sharks. It was still very sharks biting people, but the guy used the sharks to punish the people who hurt the sharks.
Aha, yeah.
So he had this secret medallion or power. I'm pretty sure it was the kitchen, like movie B rating, as movie B rating can be. But I was an 80-year-old child and I'm watching this movie of this guy who is protecting sharks, has sharks for friends, and uses sharks to punish people who are hurting sharks. And I was like, that's it. That's going to be me. So that's where my fascination, love, passion came within, and this idea of I will have sharks for friends. It was both a reality of the explanations from my parents about the true nature of the oceans and the animals living in it. My uncle was a sailor and he was like, sharks are fish. They're just fish. My father, there are no monsters in the sea, only the ones you make up in your head. My mom, who had a near-drowning experience at 15, would not put her head under the water, but would still come out and swim with us as long as her head will stay out of the water. She never forbid me from going down with mask, fins, snorkel. She never let her fear stop me from being the underwater explorer I wanted to be. And that's where all of this came from.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Because you were influenced by your parents, you were influenced by mentors, you were influenced even by a movie. It could have been it was inside you. You could have said, Jaws, and just be terrified of sharks, which millions of people, even Steven Spielberg apologized about the effect his movie had on how they perceive sharks. But then this other guy makes a B movie, and that is the one that you chose, and that's the direction you took. It's
I love
choices, right? It's choices. I can look into the negative events all throughout my career, the people that tried to stop me, which were quite a few, the people that will put, like we say in Italian, you put a stick through the wheel and it stops the wheel from rolling. But for me, I look back and I try to see what were the positive ways, who were the positive people, and leave behind the negative. It doesn't mean I didn't have to fight or to work hard, but for me is the choice is to look into the positive of the events. And the more you look into that, the more positivity you will find. And then you will find the reason to push you forward rather than sit back and actually, in a certain way, feel miserable, feel sorry for yourself, or feel like you've been prevented from doing something. I've been prevented from doing a lot of things. I've been stopped in my tracks many, many times. But when I always joke, when I do my presentation, I always show pictures of me with this machete in my hand. I said, when somebody blocks your path, grab a machete and carve a new one. I've been stopped in my tracks by natural events, catastrophes. They have demolished this island. They've demolished my way of living. We were demolished in 2019 by Hurricane Dorian, following less than 6 months later by the complete lockdown of the world. Prior to that, 8 weeks before Hurricane Dorian, I lost my mentor, Ben and Judy Rose, to a fire in their home. I lost them and their 4 dogs. 6 weeks earlier, I lost my dad. So if you look 2019, I lost my dad, Ben and Judy, the island, then lockdown came, and then I lost everything, all the income, all the jobs, everything that I was doing, everything I built for 26 years was gone.
What? Okay.
And at the time, luckily, my husband was with me, but I elected to say, okay, what path are we carving out of this? And so it required a little bit of more of a chainsaw than a machete, but we still carved the path. And we said, okay, this is how we're going to survive day to day today. This is the first priority. We're going to survive and do this. And then we're going to look for this opportunity. And then we're going to try that opportunity. And we're going to try this. Oh, this worked. So we're going to keep working on this. Meanwhile, we maintain access. We stayed on the island. So we kept going cave diving. We kept going shark diving. And that not only kept us happy, but allows us to still promote what we were doing, although we were paying now for it, right? But we stayed here, we stayed present, we had access. And then while we had access, all of a sudden the world slowly opened up a little. And people were, hey, can you do this? And I was like, yes, I can do that. Can you do this? Oh, yes, I can do that. And can you do this? It's like, yes, I can do that. And then we rebuilt. We could have ran away. We could have sat there and said, everything is gone. Literally everything was gone. We hit rock bottom. We took all the gear home. We lived the gear in our apartment with zero diving.
Yeah,
zero
for how long?
Almost a year.
Almost a year with no
tourism.
no
tourism of the
customers,
kind. Almost a year, yes. So we did different things, different ways.
Yeah.
Grab
So
a machete.
Here we are talking about life and how to overcome tragedy. How is your weekly calendar, your monthly calendar? How does that work?
Arrange the schedule according to season of sharks, season of, for example, teaching technical courses, and then demands.
So what is a season of sharks? And so are you saying you dive in the morning? You go diving in the like 5 a.m.?
Winter in the East Northern Hemisphere is our high season of sharks. Our sharks, the shark dive that we conduct, the interactive experience we conduct with these sharks is year round. But most people also come because they want to do the hammerheads and the tiger sharks. And so those seasons are winter. You're looking at November through April, May. As a consequence of people wanted here to come and do the additional sharks while they do my shark interactive dive, where they can wear the chainmail and do what I do next to me, we tend to have the peak of our season here in the wintertime. So for example, last year, our schedule was we did the liveaboard trips around the Bahamas to dive with all the sharks. We sail a catamaran for 6 customers. We have 5 crews, 6 customers. I specialize where I do educational presentations. Kevin does all the photos and videos, all included. And there's a special 6 guests that join us around the Bahamas. We dive with tigers, lemons, bulls, great hammerheads, Caribbean ray sharks, do the interactive dives. And we schedule those like November, January, February, or March, and then November again. So if you look at the years, January, February, March, and then November. For example, in 2025, we added April because we're going to Cat Island. We're going to do the oceanic white tip instead of the great hammerheads because the season is over. In between that, we try to book also the shark courses because we're here. In the wintertime, we also tend to book more of the cave training just because it's cooler. Cave diving, the water is cooler in the cave, and so you tend to wear a lot of garments. So trying to put on a dry suit and the garment in the middle of August becomes a little bit hot.
How many days when you have these groups of 5 or 6 people? For how many days do you do these?
We do 10 nights, 9 days out sailing around the catamaran. Yeah.
And you already know the spots, the areas where there's always sharks, like it's very.
Yes.
And have you seen a reduction in sharks over the years?
Not in our waters. The Bahamas, thanks to a petition that I started back in 2009 and the work of the Pew organization and the Bahama National Trust, we had the entire Bahamian archipelago declared a shark sanctuary on the 5th of July, 2011. Obviously, poaching might still happen, but the Bahamian government recognizes the value of shark diving and the income that they bring. And so in the Bahamas, the sharks are completely protected, utterly one of the best legislations I've seen in the world. And so we haven't really registered the decline that they have registered in other places, luckily so. Maybe it has become one of those places that has become untouchable, right? There's too much traffic, too many people, and diving operators are guardians at the end of the day. Because when there's traffic, operators going out there with divers, we can't have somebody trying to fish because it's illegal to fish the sharks. So anyone that sees you can actually report you, and then the defense force can come out and confiscate the vessel and arrest you. So it kind of like I said, it's become maybe a self-positive reinforcing, where the shark tourism was recognized by the government. The Bahamas becomes a shark sanctuary. We have so much shark tourism that if somebody tries to fish, there's enough patrolling that prevents people from being poaching.
So it's regulated. It's not easy to get a license to be able to do
You have to be a Bahamian operator.
Okay, but okay, so it's not saturated. It's not something that now you have, because we see that in different tourist locations, you know, where you have a beautiful experience and then it just becomes abused.
No,
It
it's not
doesn't sound-
saturated. A little bit of saturation, we experience it from outside. We have some operators that come in from Florida, and through a loophole and a very basic permit, they can come in and do here. But like Bahamian-based operators, it's not saturated. It's very well regulated. There's just a few, and each one of them has a little segment of the market, and it really works really well.
Oh, nice.
And we very much interact and cooperate with each other. I'm a firm believer that when we support each other, we can literally bake a bigger pie. And when you bake a bigger pie, then there's bigger slices for everyone.
Wow.
It's great how you protect each other and you protect the sharks together. It's beautiful and so important.
This is the end of our episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.